Hey there, Stan. What is it? Week of March 4th, 2026. Um, got a number of different changes here. I'm just gonna check real quick that we're good on Twitter. Seem to be some issues with streaming on Twitter. So yeah, looks like we're good. Should be good. All right. So this week's changes are, as a note on the current streaming setup, background stuff is what's going to be on this wall behind me. So one more week before true sophistication. Um, this week is generally light on code changes, but what did happen is the State of React Native survey results are in, and they're worth reviewing, especially as compared to the usage timeline of Nativewind. So, a lot to take in about version 4 and version 5. Um, but yeah, code changes are going to be fairly light. This week, as I had some move stuff to resolve, and I'll let you know where to set expectations for this week going into next. So, the main story, like I said, is just going to be the state of React Native survey results. Maybe you've had a chance to take a look at them yourself. I'm just going to pull them up here and provide a little bit of context as I go through what there is to learn about this year's results. So let me just make sure these are pulled up properly. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I should be able to see them. And we'll kind of just go from there. I am working with my laptop, which is currently on a stand of books. And so everything is a little bit sensitive here, but we should be okay. Might just move this over a little bit. All right. So yeah, looking at this, one of the things I'll mention before we get into stuff is that Nativewind has undergone a tremendous increase in usage just even since last year. And so when Mark and I were reviewing this stuff progressively over the year, like basically over the last like year or two, we keep seeing it get more popular than other libraries, and the expectations grow with that. So I think we're starting to see some of this catch up with us, in the sense that right around that 2024 mark that you're seeing is when the inflection went from a couple hundred to like 300,000 downloads per week. Into September, we had 350,000 downloads per week. Now we're up to 700,000. So, like, within a 6-month time window, you're having half of the people who use Nativewind, or half of the downloads that Nativewind is seeing today, have been introduced since September. And that's going to become really important moving forward. So overall, if we click on Nativewind, I'll have to follow up with the Software Mansion folks, as they still have the W capitalized, but it's nitpicking. So we are seeing an increase in usage since 2024, which is good. We finally surpassed styled components, which I remember Mark and I having a laugh about that last year when we were reviewing these same results because it had been deprecated right then as well. So yeah, it's interesting to be now above, I guess, a deprecated library. Um, so if we go to awareness, oh, I guess if we go back to usage real quick. So the big ones here for styling are inline styles and style sheet API, which make perfect sense, right? Like these are the defaults, these are the goats. Like, I mean, I don't know about goats, but they're definitely the defaults. And what this though means for Nativewind is that it is representative now of 20%, I believe, of React Native users are using Nativewind, which is kind of crazy to think about. Um, I want to move forward into these other categories, though. Awareness is also picking up um, since last year pretty substantially, right? We're almost near 100% awareness. Um, but I mean, that's really only gonna be as good as like the response to it. So the interest, this is where you're starting to see some stuff drop off, and it's been a consistent thing um with this survey, as we can see, since literally 2022. So I don't even know how much to read into this specific one. I want to go into the comments a little bit. A lot of the sentiment I see with interest in Nativewind, just in talking to people at like conferences or just, kind of in general, I get a surprising amount of feedback being, well, I don't really like Tailwind, or like the utility class. I'm not on the train of Tailwind. And I'm like, that's fine. I mean, I whatever you want to use, but like, why would you use Nativewind then? Or any of the other tools for that matter that offer Tailwind. And it always surprises me how many people try it Nativewind, and that's their point of feedback. It's true. It's like not quite, 50%, but it's like a sizable amount of the feedback is that. Um, so you know, interest in the most popular things is, here nor there. I don't really get this statistic overall. Um, the rank stuff is kind of interesting, but I think that I would like to see software mention including more tools in here. I think the ecosystem is evolving. I'd be very interested to see Uniwind on here as well. But I think that it just kind of has to last in the market a little bit longer. So again, going back to Nativewind, this is where we're going to start to see an unfortunate reality where, let me click back into that. There we go. So retention of it is quite a bit lower since last year relative to past years. And equally, the positivity, while not quite as much of a drop, I mean, yeah, it's not that far off the average, but still lower, and I don't like that. Going back to what I was saying before about the amount of users, right? It's important to realize that more than half now of the users who have jumped into using Nativewind and are using Nativewind now have joined right at this time when there is a gap, right? So you have like people jumping into version 4 and expecting version 5 and it being in this like preview state. And that's a really awkward time to jump into using a library, is right, catching it at that interval of going from version 4 to version 5, a major version change. And so I can completely understand why a lot of people have this negative impression. That on top of the fact that Mark getting sick and us trying to kind of like figure out a good way forward. Um, Now things are sort of back on the rails, and uh, changes are being implemented, documentation is being updated, issues are being addressed. Um, I anticipate that sentiment will change. I'm personally very thankful for the fact that we're in the realm of like 750K downloads per week, which astronomical, huge. Thank you so much for using the library for your projects. I really would like to see that sentiment change, though, where it matters. Obviously, for folks who are kind of like, you know, Tailwind is not for me and not on the Tailwind hype train, you know, nothing you can really do about that. That's just going to be what it is. Um, but some of the other complaints, we can actually look at the comments somewhere here. I do not remember where it is. Maybe it's in the rank. Oh yeah, here it is. All right, so there's like 13 comments. Actually, before we go into that, this is kind of worth looking at. I was happy to see React Native Unistyles in here because I like that project a lot. Yatsik did a really killer job on that. And by the way, did it completely for free also. Has not really made any money from it to my knowledge. So big shout out to Yatsik. But so, like other folks who have used it, not any particular sentiment, which is like the bulk. That's generally the case for most of these libraries. An 11-ish% saying they like it, or have like a positive sentiment. Half of that roughly being negative. This is kind of I would love to talk to the software management team to be like, how do we evaluate these results? Like, what's the framework of thought to have around this stuff? So I personally take it to mean growing pains, basically. So you're doing well in the sense that usage is expanding, awareness is expanding. Don't get overwhelmed with the challenges, the volume of issues. Just kind of keep pushing through to continually improve the product, and understand that this kind of evaluation is a snapshot of where Nativewind is at the moment. Yeah, so that's kind of my framing device for this. The perfect world of the State of React Native survey would have results on a more like incremental time basis, but it's not realistic to have the survey done like every 3 months or whatever. So this is as close as we're gonna get to real time evaluation. And I am happy to kind of see the rankings overall, like either staying the course roughly or increasing, usage wise, awareness wise. Like, it's pretty good. Damn, Unistyle is doing real well. So yeah, like all things considered, pretty good. Number 3, most awareness kind of thing. Surprisingly, rank is not super affected there. Retention, though, like we really need to do better on that front. Going back to those comments, though. All right, so some of these are gonna be, I reviewed them before the stream. And some of them are gonna be concerns about issues facing the library not working as expected, and that's totally fair. Like if it doesn't if it doesn't fit your like needs at the moment, you're not in the wrong or anything for not using the library. Like that's completely valid. Um, and I think that when you go about picking a styling library, especially in something like React Native, because React Native is really, it's not like web. Picking styling approaches in something like React Native is usually rather different than how you would evaluate it elsewhere. You're not coming to a perspective as like, I know how this system works. Most people are going to step into picking a styling library in React Native without understanding how React Native even handles styling. Um, and it's quite complex, so I don't blame them. And that's really, I think, where a lot of the desire stems for folks to like reach for something like, they see Tailwind in React Native and they're like, I know this Linux, I know this, so they want to use it. Um, but you're sort of further abstracting yourself away from what's actually going down. Um, and an issue folks then run into is that when they run into a problem, it's very surface level, right? So they're just gonna kind of evaluate it, um, and be like, this doesn't work the way I expect it to. I don't have time for it to, whatever. So I'm just gonna shuffle on to the next thing. And for a lot of folks, they just kind of end up still with just like the style sheets API. And that can work. I think you are kind of still shooting yourself in the foot a little bit, but I think the better way to approach picking styling tools in React Native is evaluating your needs, much like any other tool, right? Is evaluating what your needs are, how you're going to be using this thing, and understanding whether the approach here is fitting to your specific context. I've not seen I've seen very few cases of like a one size fits all type of solution. Um, and usually like strengths of one thing or weaknesses of another. So I'm in a mixed category there. I have almost begrudgingly gone about learning like how Nativewind works, how subsequently React Native styling works. And even my understanding of it is not as robust as say probably someone who works at Meta. Um, but at least I'll know like if something's going wrong, I know where it's happening. And so the best I can do for something like Nativewind is to try to abstract a lot of that. A lot of these concerns then that people are reflecting in the comments are largely going to be addressed, especially things like performance. It's like I can within reason make something performant, like make Nativewind performant up until a certain point, which is just sort of a logical um, constraint of the approach. If you value really like more complex stuff and you want that like you know deep performance level, you might reach for a different tool like Uniwind as an example, and you might even reach for the optimization like optimized versions of it. That has its own constraints that you'll have to be mindful of. So what Nativewind will probably just stick to is we're not going to ignore performance. Like it's important. We need to just make sure that performance within like the massive band of what most people, how people use React Native. And I also really just want to focus on the overall experience of writing like Nativewind code, or whether you're doing it, whether an LLM is doing it. So I want that experience to be really solid. And so I think a lot of these points are addressable. Some of them, again, are like, I'm all for feedback, but like, such a pain, really not good. Like, let me know what, even now, like if anyone watching, uh, has feedback specifically about what's causing trouble, like I want to hear it. I want to know what are the areas to focus on. Um, and equally, if you're going to provide positive feedback, I appreciate it. It's great. Um, but I'd like to know like what specifically really stands out, if anything in particular. So yeah, it's I think most of this is addressable, um, where constructive. Um, yeah, but I wouldn't look to native wind as being like the most performant thing you can achieve, and that's just because most people don't really need that, you know, by nature of just how Tailwind works, like, and how React Native styling works, and Native Wind's approach to it in general. You're you're just gonna, have to find the happy in between or whatever. So, um, yeah. Overall, then, to wrap on the state of React Native, usage is up tremendously, and that's great, but definitely have some work to do on user sentiment, developer sentiment, um, predominantly probably due to the fact that, like I said, more than half of the people using Nativewind today joined specifically during this kind of awkward uh, lull in our development, between October of last year and towards the end of January, beginning of February of this year. So, um, yeah, I expect that to pick up in terms of sentiment, over the coming months, as I've been addressing version 4 and version 5 stuff. Um, yeah, stabilizing both of them. And so, um, what else is happening? I'm just going to kind of keep this up for just fun. Um, but as far as code changes, like I said, they're pretty light. Uh, this past week, given my move stuff, what I did do is I got rid of interrupt CSS's or CSS interrupts registration of safe area view. Some folks were complaining about the fact that you get that like deprecated safe area view thing when running a project, and it was just like one loose reference, so I just removed it. It doesn't affect any way that you would use safe area insets or anything, and I think it's a specific version 4. Yeah, it was specific to version 4 of Nativewind. So that is shipped. That warning should no longer be showing. And as far as version 5, that I've largely just pointed folks to the right resources for when you're trying to find the docs and all that stuff through the npm stuff. Our npm like readme was out of date for a while. We are seeing a good amount of PRs coming through, which is really good for both V4 of Nativewind and V5. So I'm progressively still going through those. I'll be cycling through the issues. For a lot of the older ones, I'm probably just going to close them out, though, especially the stuff older than like 2025, because it's mostly not relevant. At this point, I have separated appropriately, like transferred the issues, like if they pertain to version 5, I've transferred them over to the React Native CSS repo. Conversely, if it's version 4 related, it's in the Nativewind repo. But yeah, if you're seeing any issue or you think anything could be changed, definitely reach out. It'd be great to see a pull request. I'm trying to keep discussions also going so that folks are aware of what direction we're headed in. And oh, and then there, as far as community efforts, like folks in the community, there's that monorepo template that I'll be publishing for version 4 today or tomorrow. So it'll be like a Next.js Expo thing, and folks can just like, get started right out of that. And the guy who's working on it is also working on a version 5 one. So let me stop sharing that. Yeah, so the way you pronounce his name is Turkish, and I actually had to look it up. And I did wanna shout him out. His name is, I'm gonna butcher this, Gursel Çakar. That's his name on Twitter as well. So he's the guy helping out, and I really appreciate him pushing on the front of the template, the monorepo template, and anything Next.js. So I'll probably have him also create in our installation guide, the like steps to set up Next.js. So if you're trying to use version 5 with like Next.js, it'll be there, and then that'll sort of also link to like, or there'll be a separate doc actually for monorepo stuff. Yeah, and then I'm still working on creating skills, assorted skills for Nativewind, starting with the one to migrate from version 4 to version 5. But that's probably going to take me a minute. I want to make it through a lot more of the issues before then. But yeah, let's see. Where are we at with issues? I'm going to cut this also all down to a shorter video. This is me just sort of blabbing. So right now we're at about 30 issues for React Native CSS and 12 pull requests, of which I think 2 are drafts, and then like 3 or 4 of those are also just like Dependabot. So in roughly the single digits for actual like pull requests. And then for Nativewind version 4, we're at 44 issues and 20 pull requests. How many of those pull requests are actually up to date? I will have to dig into. I imagine we could probably cut that in half in terms of still relevant pull requests. For those interested, if you go to the Nativewind organization on GitHub, you'll also see a projects tab. If you click on the projects tab, you'll see roadmap. I am trying to keep the roadmap up to date with what I'm working on. So if you just want to kind of passively track what's going on with the project, you can check that out. If you want to help out in sort of surface level ways, give us a star on GitHub, contribute to the discussions, reaching out on Twitter to just like share your thoughts on the project, whether to Nativewind CSS, like at Nativewind CSS, or to me, Dan Stepanov, directly. Yeah, and then what to expect for this upcoming week. This upcoming week, I'm hoping to publish a new version for a new patch version for version 5 and a new patch version for version 4, probably tomorrow at this point. And those will be addressing a series of different like issues that I've already kind of gone through and can pretty easily address. I'm trying to think. I'm looking into setting up an MCP server as well, but need to dig into that a bit. I'm mostly focused on the pull requests and the issues right now. I am taking a lot of notes as well on how Nativewind functions, whether version 4 or version 5, with the intention of creating meaningful contribution guidelines. So I want folks to be able to contribute to the project, and that's kind of like one of my ultimate goals here over the next 2 to 3 months is to get Nativewind to a point where people are contributing regularly to it and can affect the change they want to see in it, despite its complexity. And I think a huge step in that direction is making sure people even understand what it's doing. And what it's doing is largely abstractly the same in version 4 and version 5. But one of the big differences there is that the bit that's doing the Tailwind part and the bit that's doing the CSS in React Native, because React Native doesn't inherently support CSS, those two things have been pulled apart in version 5, right? So React Native CSS is doing the job of bringing CSS into React Native, and Nativewind ends up just sort of like wrapping. It's like a thin wrapper around React Native CSS that injects the Tailwind aspects. As you can imagine, there's some stuff that differs on mobile devices or in React Native than how web functions, and so you need to add in some stuff to make that work. So explaining the concepts of how these respective things function, I think is very important in order to get people to contribute. And maybe it can also help folks when they're debugging, trying to figure out what's wrong or where a problem's happening in their project. So I'm doing that, like I said, passively, sort of in the background, playing around with different short form, like longer form video stuff that I'm creating. And my initial attempt at creating content for this stuff is going to be like Fireship's 100 seconds format, right? So it'll be like how this particular part works, whether it's directly Nativewind related or like more React Native oriented. And it'll just like explain like how does that work with some nice little visuals. So that's kind of where my time is focused. If you do have more pressing needs and you need help like a lot sooner than like the coming months for these things to be resolved, you can reach out again directly. I run an operation called Ronin, where it's like me and some buddies, including Zach Nugent of React Native Reusables. And we work on, a couple of folks' projects at a time. We're not one of these like bigger agencies or something. We just kind of do enough to keep doing our interest projects. So we may have like a slot or two open up over the next month or two. So if your company or you or whatever need that extra boost and extra attention, it does exist. And I'm happy to talk about it. So just feel free to reach out again on Twitter, or our website is ronindevs.com. And that's RONINDEVS.com. So yeah, that's the bulk of it. And unless people have questions, I think I just need to get back to work and get some of the sentiment increased. So looks like might not be any questions. And yeah, thanks for jumping in, and I will see y'all next week.